With Bitcoin breaking 70K, I thought it would be fun to go back and revisit some famous clips from some haters, starting with Peter Zeihan, and revaluing what 2 pizzas cost that were bought with Bitcoin in 2010 in today's value. And discuss some comments from a viral clip from noted anthropologist and guy who's just flat out wrong about Bitcoin. He claims that Bitcoin is a currency of distrust and that we should trust central banks and governments and institutions. Yet, even the United States government predicts that over the next 75 years, U.S. taxpayers will face tax obligations of $78 trillion, with Medicare and Social Security expected to cost the U.S. government $215 trillion, while they're only anticipating receiving tax revenue of $137 trillion. Where's this gap going to come from? And why should we trust these people? Welcome to Bitcoin Daily. I'm Dante Cook, head of Swan Business. Today at 12:21, I had an alarm set. And you know why? Because it's the 21st day of the month. And the most notable meme about Bitcoin that we need to continue to spread is its 21 million fixed supply. And so with that, we celebrate today. We buy $21 worth of Bitcoin on the 21st day of each month. It's a little fun thing that we're doing internally at Swan, and we thought that we would share it with you guys as well. If you stack $21 worth of Bitcoin today, please share it on social media at the hashtag 21on21. People all over the world are going to celebrate National Bitcoin Pizza Day tomorrow on May 22nd. And it was a huge moment. There was some guy named Laszlo that ordered 2 Papa John's pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoin. For all the pundits out there who say that Bitcoin's never been used for a medium of exchange, well, a guy bought $700 million worth of pizza over a decade ago. Talk about that for a medium of exchange and store value. Sorry for the construction in the background. It's just life. And you know what? We don't do these fancy curated clips for the Bitcoin Daily. We do it live. And when Bitcoin is ripping, one thing that I love to do is go back and revisit clips from some of the haters, like Peter Zeihan, who said at 16, 17K, Bitcoin actually has negative intrinsic value, and it has over 17,000 worth to go down. Since he said that, Bitcoin is up over 300%. So much for a lack of intrinsic value.
Crypto.
Yeah, it was always a hot dumpster fire.
Always?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that it was all fraud. Some of it was a pyramid scheme. There's never been anything there. It serves no purpose. It's not a store of value. It's not a medium of exchange. And as we have seen, if you want it decentralized and not under government control, it is a haven for fraudsters. And now it is in the process of going to zero, except for Bitcoin, which will probably go negative, because if we're moving into a world with carbon taxes, you have to take into account the energy that it took to produce it in the first place.
Well, that's certainly playing out with like FTX.
Yeah.
Where you're finding out that
There'll be
it's
more.
a house of cards.
Yeah,
Do you feel like that's just sort of opened the door for people to examine all of crypto now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's like as soon as you have one of the big ones go down, it's just
go down catastrophically within a week.
Yeah, I mean, there's no intrinsic value to this asset. And now it's starting to be priced appropriately. So it has what's Bitcoin at? 16,000? It has another 17,000 to go down.
Duh. Really?
Yeah. There's no intrinsic value to this product.
And do you think that people have just inherently lost faith in the idea behind crypto because of FTX?
Well, it became an ideology. And whenever you invest based on an ideology, you're going to make some decisions that are a little divorced from math.
And what do you mean by ideology?
Well, the people who really like crypto are convinced that it's the currency of the future and that a decentralized ledger is the way to go, and that anything that is controlled by a government entity is by definition a negative, and if it's done by the private sector freely, it will be better. And that's just not how currency works. Currency is a method of exchange and a store of value. And for that, there has to be a degree of trust, and you have to have it managed in terms of volume. I mean, one of the craziest things about Bitcoin is that there will never be more than X number of units of Bitcoin. Well, by default, that means it can't be used for trade, because the whole idea of economic activity is that there's expansion, which means you need more currency to lubricate and manage that expansion. If currency is locked in at a specific number, you get monetary inflation, and that is one of the fastest ways to destroy an economic model.
So because of the lack of Bitcoin, because there's a certain controlled number, the only thing that can happen is Bitcoin becomes more expensive.
Right. And that means that the people who hold it are the ones that make the money, but everyone else suffers? I'm sorry, that's not viable.
There's several fundamental issues that I have with this clip. Issue number one is he says that currency is used as both a medium of exchange and a store of value. Well, if that's the case, then why are hard assets up against fiat currencies, which are used for medium of exchange everywhere around the world? Oh yeah, Bitcoin doesn't have any value, but Bitcoin is back at all-time highs in nearly almost every currency in the world. If fiat currencies actually held their value, and we were able to just simply save and bank on human innovation and intuition and ingenuity driving more productivity, then people would just hold fiat currencies around the world. Well, that's not true. We have an entire financial system, several $100 trillion worth, of people placing their fiat currency in other instruments like real estate, like gold, like commodities, like stocks. Oh, and Bitcoin, which is over $1 trillion asset class that still has negative value. Second crime that Peter Zeihan makes. He says that Bitcoin is a product that has become an ideology that is absent from mathematics, when in reality, Bitcoin was actually just mathematics that became an idea or an ideology that is now a protocol for everyone to be able to use globally in order to facilitate trade. If you go back to the origins of money and you read a book like Lynn Alden's Broken Money or Safedean's Bitcoin Standard, you'll realize that there were no central authorities when it came to us using money as a technology between two parties in order to barter and facilitate trade. And yes, the free market did understand and get that right. Last thing, Peter, you said that because Bitcoin has fixed units, that everybody won't be able to get a piece of the pie. Haven't we covered this already? You don't realize that your slice of pizza doesn't negate me from getting a slice of pizza. A fixed pie can have an infinite number of slices. There are 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis in the 21 million Bitcoin. And so, although yes, there will only be 21 million Bitcoin, there's an opportunity for anyone to buy in it to facilitate trade. And in another instance of Bitcoin making people who are maybe experts in one field and really intelligent, really smart, become economic theorists and experts on monetary theory and financial systems and markets, and have to do bad takes on Bitcoin, like Yuval Noah Harari. This author, historian, and anthropologist came out and said that Bitcoin is a currency of distrust.
Do I have a problem with Bitcoin? I've recently said that Bitcoin is a currency of distrust. I was just repeating what Bitcoin fans themselves often say. They argue that they don't trust the banks and governments that create dollars, yens, and other currencies, and therefore they prefer Bitcoin. Bitcoin fans may have good reasons to distrust banks and governments, but it doesn't change the fact that Bitcoin is based on distrust of human institutions. This is unfortunate, for the whole purpose of money is to create trust between strangers. Farmers grow food. Shoemakers make shoes. What is the function of the financial system? Finance creates trust. Financial devices like currencies, bonds, and shares create trust between millions of strangers who can then pool their knowledge and resources together and cooperate on shared projects. Originally, there was very little trust in institutions like banks and governments, so money was minted from gold. Since gold was scarce, this limited the amount of money and limited economic cooperation. In the modern age, trust in banks and governments increased, so they started to create tons of new money from paper and later also from electronic data. Today, more than 90% of dollars, yens, euros, and other currencies is just data in computers. Bitcoin is basically a return to gold, electronic gold. It assumes that we shouldn't trust UN institutions and shouldn't allow them to create money at will. I understand the causes for this distrust, but it is an alarming development. I hope that humanity finds a way to build trustworthy human institutions instead of adopting technologies of distrust. Humans control the world because we learned to trust one another and cooperate with one another. If we now lose trust in human institutions and instead put all our trust only in algorithms, then the algorithms will control the world.
Fun fact, Yuval, the word crypto comes from the word encryption. Bitcoin is literally a system of trust. Encryption is used in email in allowing us to buy things on the internet so that we can facilitate commerce. It is literally the protocol upon which two complete strangers can trust each other and interact and exchange value over the internet. And so, why would a platform whose central mathematical theory is based upon encryption be something that we couldn't trust? Secondly, you say that central banks and governments and institutions are people that we should trust. Well, why should we trust them? Here's just one example of why people might not trust governments and politicians and institutions. There's a parody account on Twitter that tracks Nancy Pelosi's portfolio. It tracks the stock trades and stock picks of Nancy Pelosi, who's now worth $250 million as a politician, and other politicians like Taylor Greene, who went on national television and said that she doesn't even own stocks.
Well, you know, Jesse, I'm glad you brought that up because I actually asked my team about that today, why my name was on the list, because I don't even own any stocks, and I haven't all of 2023.
Just a few months later, had traded $840K worth of stocks, and in this past month has traded $1.5 million worth of stocks. Or like David Trone, who in the largest filing of all time, filed $97 million worth of stock trades, each violating the Stock Act. And then you have information like this about the United States government, who in their own report says that U.S. tax obligations for U.S. taxpayers are going to reach $78 trillion over the next 75 years. And the gap between unfunded liabilities and the revenue that they're going to bring in is about $80 trillion over that same time frame. And so how are we going to cover that up? Well, they get to print money without any rules and any laws. Bitcoin is the world's most trusted institution because all of the acts of all of its participants are open, transparent, and verifiable. Its rules are inviolable. The reason why we don't trust other institutions, like government leaders or politicians, or sometimes your own government, is because the rules that are created are arbitrary. They come out of thin air. They come from opaque decision-making committees and lobbies and rules that we don't have visibility into. And so what would you rather trust? Something that you can't see and has a track record of breaking your trust, or something that you can see completely and has a track record of proving the veracity of all of the transactions on it every 10 minutes? I think I would take the second one. Bitcoin was created precisely because the people who control the currency have manipulated it and created new currency out of thin air at a rate which is making the world unsustainable for everyone in every currency, in every country, in every place simultaneously. If we all use currency as a medium of exchange and a technology to facilitate trade, well, then the foundation between facilitating trade between any two people is going to be off pretty much anywhere in the world. You can pick the United States dollar with almost any other currency, and that trade is going to be imbalanced. Or you can take other currencies like the yen or even the rupee and try to spend it in the United States, and that is not going to be able to be spent anywhere. Even 12 years ago, you were able to spend 10,000 Bitcoin to buy 2 Papa John's pizzas. I bet you they wouldn't have accepted Venezuelan bolivars, which are actually being thrown out in the garbage. Bitcoin is a protocol that's building trust amongst people and institutions globally, and it's doing it 24/7, 365. And as new participants come into the market, whether it be people buying real Bitcoin, like people buying $21 worth of Bitcoin on the 21st day of the month through their Swan mobile app, or it's people buying Bitcoin through their corporation, like MicroStrategy, or institutions trying to get in to buy Bitcoin through ETFs, which yesterday I think they had $237 million worth of inflows. All of these groups of people are now putting more and more of their trust in Bitcoin. They're removing it from the existing financial system in their fiat currencies, and they're placing it in an open, trustless, but verifiable platform and protocol that we can all see and verify. And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I think both of these guys are incredibly intelligent, but couldn't be more wrong about Bitcoin. And with that, we're signing off for today. This is Dante Cook with Swan.com. Happy stacking.